5:30.
Okay, all right. I call this meeting back to order and open the open session. We'll start with a report out from closed session.
On closed session, item C6, the board took action to approve resolution number 24-25-015, the stipulated expulsion of student -24-25-786. On this item, board members Olivier, Johnson, and Bones voted yes. Trustees Rebholt and Pardo were absent. No other reportable action was taken.
Okay. Now we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. I see Zane is here. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, board. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tammy Wagner, and I am the principal at Zane Middle School, and I'm excited to introduce to you Safira Cohen Ross, and she is the president of our BSU, and she's flying solo tonight. So she is here to lead us in the pledge, and then she's also going to share a little bit of information with you about what's been happening at Zane. And I just want to mention that she is supported by our advisors tonight, Mr. Lance Oden and Ms. Crystal Latonio. So I thank them for being here tonight, and without further ado, here is Safira.
Welcome.
Welcome.
All rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So far, this year we have done the multicultural fair, which I consider a success because we did get some signups, and also we did sell food, so hooray. And then with the walk, we had twice as many people, twice as much rain, and half the walk. So at least there's less walk for more rain. So the Ruby Bridges walk.
Okay.
And we walked from the high school tennis courts to Zane, and we hoped the high school would do it, but they chickened out again.
Go Zane.
And we hope to do a assembly for Black History Month and have these flyers set up of a few of our heroes. Mr. Owen has two, and then this personally is my hero, and he's sitting right there. And you have to try and figure out who the hero is. And lastly, we are helping organize a youth conference for African American kids, and I'm not sure what else we're going to do about that, but I hope it turns out great. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Okay. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So motion carries. Information reports. Do we have any student reports tonight? Okay, no. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Shared facilities agreement with the city of Eureka is complete. So thank you, Paul, and thank the friends at the city of Eureka. Our young people will have a place to play hoopsters now in our middle school gyms over the course of the year, and we've got a place for larger off-site meetings. So it's great to enter into that interagency shared partnership, which is great. Just got back from Arizona at the Rural School Collaborative Community Design meeting. There's 7 rural school superintendents from across the nation that are trying to kind of rethink the way that public school education is being done, kind of moving from that industrial model and into a legitimately equitable 21st century future ready model for our young people, and that was great. So learned with superintendents from Maine and New Hampshire, North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and Colorado. Gosh, I feel like I'm missing somebody, but it was great. The day and a half of learning really centered around the mindset and the conditions that need to come out of the superintendent's office for community design to truly work and for people to kind of embrace the change process. So it was meaningful. It aligns perfectly with our portrait of a graduate and some of the work that we have been doing. Yesterday we met with our Eureka City Schools leadership team, and we created the mindset, skills, and competencies that leaders need to have in order to engage in this work. We'll share that in more detail with you next month, which is all exciting. And the last thing I wanted to put on your radar, Lisa and Cynthia, and is Lindsay, our next potential visit to Lindsay Unified, to kind of learn what that pretty remarkable community is doing, is March 9th through the 11th. So if we could check calendars and get back to Michael or I, if those dates will work, we'll shoot out an email to you all right now. No need to dive deep looking for pens, but we'll shoot it out to you. It's a great learning opportunity. We can ask Susan about it. Susan and Rebecca went last time. It's our aim to get the entire board down there to spend a couple of days seeing what 15 years of personalized competency-based learning can look like with leadership at all levels.
It's impressive.
It's really impressive.
No, I look forward to it.
Let's see, the last thing that I just will mention just briefly, we've got the grant elementary project that we have been talking about for a little while, some matching funds from the state. Each week that goes by, it looks like that project is becoming more and more complicated and potentially difficult to complete or even get off of the ground. And Paul will bring that item to you in greater detail next month. But we've had a few questions from a few of you on updates on where we're at with that, and just it's challenging right now, and just wanted to be kind of upfront and transparent about that. And we'll dive deeper into that next month, as we're also having to figure out budgetary priorities.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board member reports. Gigi?
Okay. This is my report from the last board meeting since I wasn't able to be here. Starting off, we have Washington, and they had an incredible craft night on December 4th. They had over 300 people going to all the classrooms to complete a craft. One of the students' favorite crafts was taking a picture with the Grinch and then making an ornament. They also had a new student information night welcoming incoming TK and kindergarten students. Moving on to Grant, their community schools liaison, coordinated 2 feathers to go and do a presentation in celebration of Native American Heritage Month. Students have provided feedback to DHHS on the different healthy water choices that are available to all students on Trekking Tuesday. Student leadership has also worked hard on identifying lunch clubs that will start with 4th and 5th grade after the winter break, so they should have started by now. Although my little sister, who joined us today and is in the 3rd grade, she had the opportunity to join the coding club. She told me all about it today. It was super fun.
Very exciting.
Lastly, student artwork can be found in different Henderson Center businesses thanks to our community partnership with the Henderson Center merchants. Lastly, with EHS, we have been working with the other local schools to participate in the canned food drive that benefits our local community in partnership with Food for People. Student Gov and Athletics worked really hard to host the 46th annual Logger Classic the weekend of the 19th through 21st of December. And we hope that next year we will hopefully have more teams joining us. Still on the topic of basketball, our girls varsity team has been having an amazing season so far, with their winning score being 13-2 and having won a couple of out-of-town tournaments. Lastly, we have just officially begun our first semester finals, with today being the first dreadful day. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Susan?
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Yeah, the last I had, we reported, and then we had wonderful holidays. So,
That's why I didn't think to ask anyone about.
looking forward to the the listening sessions again, and the Lindsay visit, I can say that. All right, so now is the time for public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have anyone that wanted to address the board? Okay, then we will move on to the consent calendar.
Move for approval of the consent calendar?
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion approved. Item K1, consideration of memorandum of understanding between Cal Poly Humboldt and Eureka City Schools for direct admissions. Jennifer.
So we have our guests here from Cal Poly, and so I invite you guys to come up with that. Angela's got the memorandum, we can do the holiday does, okay. So this memorandum, we've been working, it's probably been 4 or 5 years. So one of the programs that we've been working is called the CCGI portal, which is basically aligning our transcripts for our students so that they can be accessed by the CSU system, and then we can also track our students as their 4-year students within the college system to look at like graduation rates once they leave us. And one of the great parts of this is since we can track students that are on A to G, even their sophomore year, junior year, we can work with our partners at Humboldt to offer direct admissions, and as long as students meet those requirements and continue to graduate fully qualified, then Humboldt can begin working with them even earlier than when they normally would get their acceptance in the spring of their senior year. So answering questions about financial aid and majors and pathways, and really making sure our students and our families feel comfortable and have all the answers and really get some extra support. So you guys want to add anything to that?
Sure, absolutely. I'll just say that the partnership through CCGI has really made this possible because of the data pieces. It will give us the information we need to be proactive, as Jennifer was saying, with the students. We actually were able, the CSU broadly did a pilot of this in Riverside County, and we were able to take that, and we're going to be one of the first offering this using the CCGI pathway here, and are excited that Eureka City Schools are part of that with us, and we're hoping that we'll have even more within Humboldt County to come very soon.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's my honor to be here. Mike Spagna, Interim President at Cal Poly Humboldt. And I want to tell you that it's my honor to be here before the board. I'm a former middle school teacher, special ed teacher, and trained as the Dean of Education, hundreds of teachers for LA Unified. But I will tell you that coming up here and being with Cal Poly Humboldt, there's nothing more exciting than this direct admission opportunity. Being the father of an 18 and 22-year-old and having gone through the anxiety of what does it mean to apply to college, I have you all think about a dream that we've been talking about a little bit in the Cal State system for several years, about imagining students here in Eureka City Schools just getting this unsolicited mailer to them that says, congratulations, you have been admitted to the Cal State system, and here are the schools that you have been admitted to. So this is something that's phenomenal. It's long overdue, and I'm so proud that Eureka City Schools is the group that's going to be one of our key partners after the County of Riverside for this. So it's quite a monumental moment. It's exciting for families and students. The other thing that we're really pursuing under Vice President Holliday's leadership is trying to ensure that our students graduate debt-free, because that's the value proposition of going on to post-secondary education. And coming out of the pandemic, a lot of students, I will tell you, really question the value of going to higher education. So we want to smooth those pathways so they complete degrees and they can go on to transform their lives and realize their dreams. So thank you all for having us here today, and we're very excited about the partnership.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
We're excited as well.
Yeah.
I'll mention him
No.
here earlier.
Any opportunities we can do to expand for our students going forward are extremely well received.
And I also want to recognize our counseling office at Eureka High, and in particular Tina Traylor and Paul Feist, who have spent hours on the back end of our system in order to align our system with the CCGI system so that it will all work. And then Angela Schultz, who's formerly Eureka City Schools, who's now at the K-16 Collaborative, who's made this possible.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Angela, you might get a better angle from up in here. No, you're good.
Congratulations, everybody.
Excited.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
Dr. Holiday, thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Yeah. Jennifer, could jump in there.
Yeah, Jennifer too.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank
All right,
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll get you a copy. Yeah, I'll have Jeanette send one.
The orange ones. Okay. Item K2, consideration of current year retention of first grade student number 29713. Re-
President Olivier, our interim President Olivier, we did not get a motion in a second.
Oh,
on that.
I'm sorry. I thought with the signatures, I skipped right by it.
For the last agenda item,
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, so K2, the consideration of current year retention of first grade student 29713 returned to kindergarten for the remainder of the 2024-2025 school year. Hi, Lisa.
Thank you. Student number 29713, student's father, has requested that the team retain the student in kindergarten, back to kindergarten. He no longer feels that first grade is meeting the needs of his daughter's academic and social needs. Last year, the student attended kindergarten on a modified day, as numerous interventions were unsuccessful for this particular student, and the student also has in-home support. In November, the Alice Burney assessment team administered common district-wide assessments in both math and reading. Currently, the student has made little growth and continues to be unable to access the transition to first grade. The team supports the dad's request, and we recommend that student number 29713 be retained in kindergarten for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item L1, enrollment and attendance update. Paul?
That's a fun pitch.
So this is one of our two annual enrollment updates, and I really want to focus tonight more on the enrollment and attendance aspect of it. As we get to our May conversation, we'll talk a little bit more about the demographics and the makeup of our various sites and the like. But for tonight, here we go. First, this is just a snapshot of the last 10 years of our enrollment. And you can see that on a year-over-year basis from 23-24 to 24-25, we experienced a 76 student decline. If you take a 10-year snapshot, that's a decline of 272 students over that 10 years. That's about a 7% decline. Stretching it out even farther, take a 20-year horizon, we have lost 1,259 students, which is about a 27% reduction in our overall enrollment. So just wanted to give you a sense of what those numbers are looking like. We wish they were going the opposite direction. And to maybe pile on, not great news in addition to that, as we have looked at some of the projections for Humboldt County entire, there's an expectation of about a 10 to 15% decline in TK-12 enrollment over that next 10-year period or so. So that does not bode overly well for us from an enrollment perspective. I'm not sure what I'm doing to it. There we go. Okay. This is just a breakout of the CBIDS attendance, that wonderful day in October, the first Wednesday when we do our official count of students, 3,462. You can see how it's broken down by sites, and I don't know that this is all that informative, just as a snapshot, but some of the things that are interesting to me is the change in the number of students at the elementary schools. We have a difference of 148 students from our largest school, now Washington, to our smallest school, which is smallest populated school, Grant Elementary. whereas about 5 years ago, that difference was 206 students. So you will likely recall that we changed our attendance boundaries with the stated aim of trying to bring more equity, or at least more equality of number to our sites, and we've been able to achieve that to a great extent. In particular, this I thought was very interesting. 5 years ago, Lafayette had 252 students. This year, they're at 324. The only reason that we're not seeing, I think, additional growth at Grant beyond where they were probably 5 years ago is just a facilities limitation at this point. So, but again, kind of interesting to see how those numbers have changed for us. 5 years ago, we were 1,403 students at the elementaries. We're at 1,390 right now. So on the face of it, that doesn't seem like much of a decline. But if you count the fact that we have added 40 or so TK students, we have a small decline that we've experienced at the elementary schools. Looking at the middle schools here, Winship and Zane, we're almost perfectly balanced in terms of the number of students. 5 years ago, Winship had 345 students and Zane had 623. So again, that change of trying to limit the back and forth between the schools has resulted in a very common level of student body between the two sites. The bad news within this is 5 years ago, we had 968 middle school students. We have 830 middle school students right now. So if you're going to look at an area where we've seen the deepest decline, clearly it's at the middle schools. This is a snapshot of our CalPADS information. On the far left-hand column, again, it recaps what the total enrollment is. But on the next to the, sorry, on the far left, and on the far, next to the far right is our total unduplicated count. Our unduplicated count is our English learners, foster youth, and students that are from low-income households. So it's been interesting to see that number climb over the years. We were in the high 60s probably 5 or 6, 7 years ago. We now think that we're at a 75% threshold, and that 75% threshold is really important to us. Not only does our unduplicated count drive our supplemental and concentration income, but it also drives our extended learning opportunity program. And it's very interesting the way that California is set up. If you're below 75%, you get $1,500 per student from K through 6th grade. If you're 75 or above, you get $2,700 per student for that same grade span. So hitting that additional, moving up to 75.01, hang in there, don't drop back down. That adds about another $1.2 million or so to our after-school program revenues. At least that's what we're projecting based on these numbers. Also interesting to me is looking at the unduplicated percentages. You see that our total again is 7501, but if you look at the high school, they're at 63%. And another way of looking at this, combine all our elementary schools together, we're at 85% unduplicated. Our middle schools are 74%. Our high school is 63%. It says to me two things. First of all, we're probably bringing students in from the outside that are a different demographic than we're seeing coming up through our elementary schools, and that's pushing down at the high school level what our unduplicated count looks like. But I also think it means that we're not able to identify to the same extent those high school students who probably really do qualify, for instance, for free lunches and the like. If we are able to get them back to that same level, then that again will drive additional revenue for us. We had a heck of a push this year to get to that 75%. It was all hands on deck with the sites doing a wonderful job of supporting that. I think if we get at it a little bit earlier in 25, 26, we're likely to see that number come up into the 80% range or so. Again, that helps drive our supplemental concentration revenue, so that would be a big thing for us. This is our ADA ratio. It just says of the number of students that are at a particular site, how often are they coming to school? ADA, of course, being a big thing for us, this drives our revenue. If you take a look at the 23-24 month 4, so the same time last year, our attendance rate was 92.1%. So our students were coming to school basically 92% of the time. We're a little bit ahead of that number right now at 92.71%, so that's good news. We're continuing to see that number increase, and attendance, of course, continues to be a major initiative for us, not just because of the dollars attached to it, because we want kids in school so that they can learn. Before COVID, and I don't even really know what the standard is now, but pre-COVID, 95% was kind of the target from an attendance ratio perspective. COVID has changed what those dynamics look like, so I don't even know if there is a standard that people would say that we're shooting for right now, but more is better than less, and we'll continue to push in that direction. And then just one last thing here, we talk about this often, and this is? It is.
It takes a little wrist flip, it looks like, when you do
Is
this.
that what it is?
It's
You're gonna just throw it at it or something like that, I don't know. Anyway, if you look at our LCFF revenue, our local control funding formula revenue, and you kind of put it all together, we receive roughly $14,000 per year per student in terms of their attendance. That would be if a student came to school every single day, we get about $14,000 all in for that student. And then the bottom number that shows there, and one of the reasons why attendance is such a big thing to us, if we were able to increase our attendance rate by 1%, that would add roughly another $500,000 worth of revenue for us. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay. Item L2, update on governor's proposal for the 2025-2026 state budget.
So kind of sort of hot off the presses, last week, the governor released his proposal, first salvo, if you will, for the 25-26 school year, our first look at what the budget might look like as we move into the following year. It's the first in a process. We'll have the May revision, and then the actual budget gets presented, and the legislature will go through the process of approving that into July. But again, this is our first look at it. And just some of the takeaways from this as we go through this process. First of all, California is in a better financial position this year than we were, or is looking to be in a better financial position next year than we were for this year. And certainly that filters down to K-12 education. Last year, there was a budget gap of somewhere between $38 billion to $68 billion. That seems like a really large spread to me, but that depended on how you did the accounting there. And this year, the proposal is expecting to beat the revenue projection by about $16 billion. So good news for the state, good news for education as well.
Need it with all the fire.
And those are some of the uncertainties that are out there as well. The proposal generally has good news for education. There's a COLA, there's discretionary funds, additional revenues that go to TK, additional eligibility for the expanded learning opportunities program, and certainly a potential for an upside potential for revenues as we get to the May revision. The uncertainties that go along with this, federal policy is noted as perhaps the largest level of uncertainty. I think the fires have now introduced a whole level of different concern for California. And this is kind of an interesting statistic. 1% of the state's highest income earners paid nearly 39% of all personal income taxes, which is actually down from last year. Last year, it was 1% paid 50% of all personal taxes. So clearly, the California economy is contingent on those high wage earners, which probably translates to the stock market and the capital gains they're able to realize there as well. So having that kind of uncertainty in terms of what our earnings, what our top earners are going to be doing, adds to the uncertainty of the fiscal outlook for California. So then back to LCFF and COLA. In the proposed budget, there's a 2.43% COLA. That's a decrease of 0.5% from where we were during the summer, and what we did our first interim projections based on. That was a 2.93%. That's not final. There's 8 different data points that come together to determine COLA. We have 6 of them in place, 2 more to come. So what I can say with great certainty is it won't be 2.43%. Whether it will be higher or lower than that, I can't give you any necessary guidance on that. But that will be fleshed out and will be in place by the time that we get to the actual budget for when we get to June and July. That COLA decrease equates to about a $250,000 loss of revenue for us in each of the 2 out years, 25, 26, and 26, 27. So some of the other great things that are in here, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, mentioned a little bit that there's a big difference in terms of that 75% threshold. Additional dollars are going towards the ELOP, which we think will benefit us moving forward. For nutrition, the Universal Meals Program will be in its 4th year. The governor's proposing to continue to fund that in 25-26. Thank you. That's a wonderful program for students. On a one-time funding side, additional programs coming out, the Student Support and Professional Development Discretionary Block Grant, that's a mouthful. And that appears to be generally unrestricted funds, about $1.8 billion. So it sounds like Newsom is starting to borrow a bit of the pages from the playbook that Governor Brown had, which is don't sink it all into ongoing dollars. Let's give you some one-time discretionary money to do what you want with, and give it to us, and we're happy about that. The Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant adds another $378 million for learning recovery initiatives. Good news for us. And then there's also a teacher preparation and professional development program, roughly $150 million to create a teacher recruitment incentive grant that provides financial assistance to teacher candidates. On the CTE side, the governor proposes to include dual enrollment and pathways programs as allowable expenditures for funds allocated through the Student Support and Discretionary Block Grant. There's got to be a really great acronym for that somewhere. And then also there's a master, I think it's called the Master Report Card, that is supposed to be a bit of a pathway for CTE. I don't know a whole lot about it. Jennifer may know more, but it sounds like there will be additional funding to support that as well. So CTE remains at the forefront of the governor's thoughts. So kind of bring it all together, we've had years of revenue swings from where we started the year with our budget to where we got to the end of the year. It feels like 25-26 may be a little bit, provide a little bit more stability, which would be wonderful from a budgeting perspective. And again, the next up in the cycle for 25-26 is the May revision, so more to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item L3, equitable distribution of qualified and experienced teacher assignments among schools. Renee.
Hello.
Hello.
So we have a board policy, which is assignment of certificated staff, and it requires an accounting of teacher assignments to ensure that our highly qualified and experienced teachers are equitably distributed among our schools. So the report you can see here shows the number of teachers at each of our school sites, and then it breaks down the number of permanent, probationary, and temporary teachers. And from the chart, you can see that the distribution of experienced teachers is reasonably equal. If you compare the last 3 years, I'm trying to think of where I saw average years of experience, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to tell because in the past, we could only place teachers up to a step 11, and now we've opened so that we can recognize total years of service teaching outside the district. So we're able to hire teachers in at a higher level and recognize all of their years of service. So this report also shows teachers who are working on any kind of a permit, so who are not fully credentialed. It's always our intent to hire fully credentialed teachers when possible. And if you'll think about the last few years since COVID, we've been in a situation where we've had to hire a number of teachers on permits or waivers each year. And I'm happy to see that this year we have very few of those. So most of our teachers are fully credentialed and qualified. Okay, it's just kind of an information item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item L4, local control accountability plan update. Jennifer.
You guys think the meeting's over and it's not. How I ended up to end. New year, new PowerPoint background for the LCAP. Keeping it exciting, isn't it? So we're going with flowers this year is our theme. So the team has remained the same. Katie Koopman, who was formerly Katie Levy, you might recognize her by, is our CSEA rep, and she joined us kind of mid-year last year. And so it's nice to have a rep from both ETA and CSEA. And then actually Jonna will be our newest member of the team this year. And so she's going to join us on Friday for the first time for a little bit. Our current focus is we're gathering data for the annual update And then I'll bring that to you in February with the mid-year report on the annual update, which will look back at data from last year and how we're doing according to our goals that we've set for this 3-year cycle. We're getting ready. Rachel just did her site council meeting tonight and did the LCAP survey there. That was number 1. We'll go to all the site councils and we'll go to some of the ELAC meetings along with PAC and DLAC to get surveys and talk with people in person. And then you'll see the survey also being pushed out through our communication methods along with being out in social media. So that will be coming out tomorrow. We wanted Rachel to test it first. Whoops. Okay, Paul, what'd you do to this thing? The slide? Maybe I just slid it back on. Wait, it's you. You're tricking us. Merrick's back there pushing the buttons. All right, we're also going to use Thought Exchange this year for 3rd through 12th grade students and separate the exchange from the adult exchange. We had the high school mixed in last year, and it kind of skewed our data even when we tried to separate them out. So we're going to split them this year. And then with Thought Exchange's new AI, you can really prompt it if you choose when you're taking it. So like some people may take it, like Mike Lynn's a good example. She can take it as a parent. She can take it as a school employee, answer, may answer differently. Lisa may answer differently. Gary may answer differently depending on which role he's doing it. So you can actually do it twice in each role. And then when we filter the data, we can filter by group. So we can look at just employees, just classified, just certificated, just parents, just community members, or we can look at the aggregate data also, the way the program is. And if we want to know something specific, like, did anybody say anything about how long the gym is taking? We can use the AI features to pull out any thoughts on specific topics too. So that's the nice thing about using Thought Exchange. And then we'll be starting our review of the fiscal expenditures from 24, 25. That's kind of part of the reporting that goes in from the business services side. So the good news, the LCAP is very connected to the dashboard. And we went from having multiple subgroups in differentiated assistance, which is basically groups in red on the dashboard, to only having 2 groups, but you can see in the different areas. But this is significantly, we had 7 groups last year. So to go down to just 2 is a huge improvement in 1 year. And all of our sites also saw improvement on their individual reports. And some of our sites came out of ATSI and were actually exited. They're still going to monitor their subgroups from last year to make sure for 3 years that subgroup is making progress. That's part of the requirement, but they don't have new subgroups or subgroups didn't stay in. So great progress. So those are kind of our accomplishments. We also attend meetings and get regular updates from HCOE and CDE on the LCAP and what's required. We're waiting for we're always waiting for the template. That seems to be the issue. So you can really get to work and start working in the actual template. And so we're waiting for that. So now we're kind of tracking things in our Google Sheet method until we get the actual template, but I'm expecting it within the month.
Are they changing the template up on you again?
They're always, it hasn't changed a lot in the last couple of rounds. Not like it was before where it would majorly change every year. So that part, we can kind of set up our Google Sheets to mimic it, which is nice. So we'll be talking in the annual update next board meeting about where we are compared to our goals, where we think we're going, and we'll be using current data. So right now we're doing M-Class and IXL assessments as our mid-year. So we'll use that actual data, not waiting clear till we get CASP data, which only comes once a year. And then really solidifying the budget, especially since we did an FPM review. So what's being funded out of the title funds, and then what's also being funded out of SEP and CON. Unrestricted, Paul and Jonna and Missy and I met today to kind of start those conversations. Any questions?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And back data next time. All right, Merrick, for the next one.
L5, review of the proposed ethnic studies curriculum for Eureka High School, Eureka City Schools High Schools, sorry.
All right, so this is
It's just the high school.
an information item.
But it's both high schools. So
Well,
I
we're
didn't
doing
say
it in
it
10th
right.
grade, so in some ways it's Eureka High School, because it'll happen in the 10th grade is our plans. We'll talk about that. So ethnic studies is being implemented in the 25-26 school year, so next school year. So I do want to thank, we have Dr. Ramona Bell here, who is our consultant from Cal Poly Humboldt. And then Carolyn has been our lead for the team from Eureka High, and we have probably 6 or 7 teachers on the team at Eureka High that have been working on developing the ethnic studies curriculum from both English. Our librarian, our district librarian, Savannah Polizzi's been on it, also has a social studies background. We have one of our SPED teachers who's co-teaching in English, has been very involved. In fact, he and Savannah piloted some lessons during summer school, and the 10th grade teachers are piloting lessons currently in the 10th grade English class. So ethnic studies is an academic field examining historically marginalized groups and focuses on Black, African American, Chicana, Latinx, Native American, Asian American Pacific Islander studies. So in the model curriculum that the state has put out, those are the focus areas in the state model curriculum. And so this is what we'll be integrating into our coursework. So exploring history, culture, struggles, and contributions often that are overlooked and not in maybe a lot of the experiences we had in taking history or even English classes in high school. So really looking at those contributions. And integrating, I think this is important for us, we're going to integrate and connect to local examples and resources. So working closely with some of our community partners, been working, I know we've done some work even at the elementary and middle school level with Maggie Peters with the project she's doing through HCOE with Native American curriculum and how we're going to integrate local Native American curriculum and resources. And we'll talk a little bit about the event that's going to come, and Carolyn can talk about who's going to be there. But you can kind of see the timeline. This happened in, so the legislature approved it in 2021, and then the requirement is that schools start to offer this as a graduation requirement starting next school year, with the class of 2030 being the first class that will have to have ethnic studies as a graduation requirement. So some of the options are to have a semester or a year-long course, and it could be standalone. You could integrate the course with world history, or these are the ones we looked at. You could integrate with U.S. history, like a history class, and integrating with sophomore English. So these are the 3 options we looked at that kind of best fit the current curriculum, especially thinking about students having world history in their sophomore year, to dovetail ethnic studies with world history in particular, and to also get students kind of some of this knowledge earlier in their high school career, so as they move into their junior and senior year, it becomes a base of knowledge for them, rather than waiting until their junior or senior year. So the team decided to integrate with sophomore English, and so we're going to do an integrated program in order to provide diverse perspectives using literature, poetry, nonfiction text, help students understand different cultural experiences. Really relying on stories is one of the ways to do that and to engage students, rather than kind of through the drier, we thought, historical perspective, and use themes with a spotlight. I think, is that, I get the right word, Carolyn? Just really spotlight those different ethnic groups and cultures that we're going to be focusing on as we go through kind of a more thematic approach to teaching the course. And then students will be able to incorporate more student voice and choice in maybe what they read, how they present. So really trying to also align it with our competency-based education and build some of this in as we're building this course. This will be kind of one of the first courses at the high school that gets kind of built along this model. And then it'll also complement taking world history. And so they've also, the English teachers have been talking with the world history teachers to also do some alignment with that course for background information.
Having more voice and choice was definitely a common theme we heard from students when we did our listening sessions at the high school.
Oh,
Yeah.
They wanted more choice on what they were reading and what they're,
Yeah.
We were hearing that across a lot of the schools, that some of the students were voicing a complaint that certain books are favorites amongst a series of grades, and so for year 5, they're still reading this same book
I'm a
again.
little tired of it.
And they're a little over it and would like to move on to something in the same genre, but maybe from a different author.
All right, and I think one of the things, ethnic studies, at our last meeting with the group, we really talked about how does ethnic studies integrate with Portrait of a Graduate. And these were the 3 of the 6. We think ethnic studies is going to do a really good job of developing these 3 competencies. And in particular, the global steward and the community engager will come out more in ethnic studies than likely in some other courses. So we really do want to showcase that as part of ethnic studies to really work on those competencies. And I think the team was really excited about integrating the competencies in there and the ideas, you know, that they had that went along with having students showcase and how they are competent as a community engager and what they could do. So develop critical thinking. I would say one of the key standards in both social studies and English is to be able to select and evaluate reliable sources, so that will be a focus of the course. And then also choices and options to study their own interests and their own identity. So Unit 1 is about identity. And so students really get to reflect on, you know, what makes up their own identity and how do they identify in different ways, whether it be ethnicity, culture, you know, different groups they belong to on campus, who they associate with, their family, their traditions. So it will kind of bring in all of that. And then Global Steward, really preparing students to be out there in the world. So both the school, and we have a very diverse school, so understanding the diversity that's at Eureka High, in our community, in our nation, and then in the world. So I think that'll be exciting, and hopefully bringing in those options from different areas and having students interact with different people and different cultures and different parts of the world. And then develop an understanding of different points of view and values. And then community engager, we really want to highlight local people and stories to strengthen students' knowledge of their community. So bringing in those people who are taking students out into the community. And then opportunities for community celebration, involvement, and activism, because high schoolers have opinions. And if they want to, you know, make change and do things, like this is a course we can kind of really start to set them up for how does that happen within a community. So you may be seeing them presenting here. The process today, we've been lucky to work, I introduced Dr. Bell. She's been working with us since, for about 2 years now, as we've kind of looked at the model curriculum, started to meet with the team, got the team together. And she attends all of our planning meetings. She's there as a resource for the team to reach out to about curriculum, about books, about ideas. The team of teachers is working on, they've looked at a lot of samples, they've read course syllabus, they're working on A through G approval this spring for the course, because it will need to be a college prep, and they have weekly planning meetings, and they are piloting and revising lessons in the curriculum right now, and getting student feedback on those lessons. So they did a Project West webinar series, which was focused on ethnic studies last year about this time. They attended the CATE conference, which is the California English Conference last spring, which had strands focused on ethnic studies. And then they visited schools in the Bay Area who've had ethnic studies courses implemented for a while now to talk with teachers and students and schools that already have the program up and running. And then, of course, the pilot that we're doing right now, along with summer school. So the goals are to expand the English experience to include more diverse authors and stories. That's one of the reasons we chose English 10. English 10 was kind of locked into the 50s with a bunch of basically old white guys.
Yeah.
Probably things you read when you were in 10th grade English were still in the 10th grade English curriculum.
Literally, I had a student come back from break because they were finishing Lord of the Flies over break, and their grandma was like, I read that book in school. Yeah, it's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
I read it in school.
So did I.
So did you, see?
It was a good book.
By the time yeah, a little more choice maybe by the time your sister makes it to 10th grade English.
Definitely. She'll be there.
There's another sister in between though.
Okay. No, it's next year, so we're good.
Oh yeah, she'll be there. Hopefully.
So again, building that cultural understanding through and empathy through reading, listening, and discussion. and also developing skills to analyze how race and ethnicity shape people's experiences, and to realize that they do. So key themes, this comes out of the model curriculum, so this is part of that thematic approach. So identity, history and movement, systems of power, and social movement and equity. And then what we're talking about as the team is to have anchor text then paired with the themes. So an anchor text that is about that theme, they can use it. And then to have lit circles where students will have that choice, maybe around that theme, but instead of everybody having to read Lord of the Flies, now there's going to be a choice for those students to read different books associated from different authors. And then using poetry, lyrics, podcasts, videos, and music, really trying to use some of the ways that students are more engaged in working with different mediums. And then both fiction and nonfiction. And for the nonfiction, a lot of primary source texts, like what they do use in history, you know, rather than something that's been written from, you know, one perspective, but really to use those primary source documents. So here are some of the draft themes that the team has come up with. Which one are you guys on now?
We're going to be moving on to research and argumentation.
Yeah.
That's next. And civic engagement as well. Those go together.
And one of the things we've talked about is there are challenges to implementing this curriculum. And we want to ensure that there are diverse perspectives within the ethnic groups that are represented, because not everybody that belongs to a single ethnic group may have the same values, the same views. So really recognizing that diversity within groups and cultures and areas, and that it's designed to celebrate diversity, not promote division. And so really that's I think one of our main goals, and that's one of the goals of the events at the end of this month. And to provide historical context for sensitive topics so that people understand the history that different cultures and ethnicities, what their history is, and that they have that viewpoint. And I think that's where some of our local history will be important to teach and to bring into the class at that point. Encourage respectful dialogue and open-minded inquiry. So really, you know, teaching kids how to have good conversation and to ask questions and to be able to debate and to, you know, have listening session type, you know, conversations rather than everybody taking a point and kind of, you know, locking into their position. And then also know that there's times we're going to have to offer support to students, because some of these themes and topics may be difficult for students to process. So making sure the counseling, the wellness center are also kind of knowing what's going on in the course. And next steps, we'll be bringing back curriculum to adopt for those anchor texts this spring. Also refining the lessons. We'll do some more at summer school this year, and then submit the course for approval this spring for A to G for next year, and then additional professional development for teachers. And guess what I found out today? We have $36,000 to spend on professional development for ethnic studies. I was like, thank you, Paul. Or thank you, Jonna. Jonna's like, do you know you have this? And I was like, no, but I know we can spend it.
Spending's not an issue.
Yeah. So you're all invited, January 31st. And this was Dr. Bell's idea. We were thinking, how are we going to get community input? You know, let the community know that this course is coming next year. And she's like, why don't we have a celebration? Like, this is a celebration. And so we're going to do that from 6 to 8 in the cafeteria. We have a DJ, food, music. We'll have speakers. Carolyn has invited a variety of.
Yeah, I think the list is up there. We have community folks coming from Black Humboldt, HAPI, Humboldt Asian Pacific Islander Group, Central Pueblo, also reached out to the Wiat tribe. I know that Shauna Morales talked to the Native American parent group last night as well about coming. And then many of our EHS cultural clubs as well will be there, in addition to anyone else from the community who wants to come. I had every intention of bringing you printed flyers, literally sent the file to myself to print on my yearbook printer that has color and all of the stuff.
I didn't take your badge down there.
And then students were like freaking out about their files, and it lifted out of my brain. So I will make sure that's emailed to everyone, the poster, and I'll bring a stack of printed flyers over
Thank you.
advice. But please spread the word about that, share the Facebook event. We're really excited to share that with everyone.
And so, prior to that event, we will have a thought exchange going out also to collect information and opinions. So you'll probably see the thought exchange. I know they're going to link it to the event on the Facebook, and then the high school was going to distribute it through their communication methods also. And that'll stay open through the event, so people at the event can also respond that come to the event.
That sounds exciting.
Sounds great.
Do you guys have anything else to add?
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for the work. Yeah.
It's been great it's been a great team.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's fun because it's some of our new teachers also, and Carolyn's getting to mentor them.
Which is
Item L6, the report on results of the thought exchange survey on workplace reflection from December. Gary.
Hi. See if I can get the wrist flick
Yeah, there you
down.
go.
We started last December with the question, after digging into the research and knowing that people who want to come to work help produce students who want to come to school, and students who want to come to school learn more. And so creating an environment that staff wants to be at and that staff wants to work at is really, really important. So we asked the question, at Eureka City Schools, we're committed to continuous improvement and creating a workplace where every team member feels valued and supported. Feedback is important. Share with us what we're doing well, what we can get better at. And we have, sorry for the flicks, we got 234 of our 500 employees jumped onto the survey. We got 161 people providing individual thoughts, and we had 4,500 responses to thoughts. So Susan could put a thought in, and then Lisa gets to say, I think that that's a great thought, or I think that that's a lousy thought, and a 1 through 5 scale for background. You guys are getting familiar with that. So here's the results. So December 2024, we get the results back. 69% of folks at Eureka City Schools said that they were likely or very likely to recommend working here, which 7 out of 10 is an improvement from 2023. So we saw about a 14% increase in folks that are liking their work. And it's such important work that, boy, I hope that we like coming here. So really, really, really solid work. 7 people, still are unhappy. And in my kind of reach out, to folks, it was like, I want to learn. I'm genuinely curious. What about working here is so hard? So reach out to me, talk to me. Like, I want to have a conversation. I want to learn. And I hope that that resonates with people because I think that, the research again shows that when we're hitting, right around 80% of our folks or so wanting to work here, like that's that kind of critical mass for teacher collective efficacy to really kick into overdrive. And it's one of the things that thriving, successful 21st century schools are really leaning into. But there is work to do, and it's not all perfect, right? And here are the top 3 kind of thoughts, and the top 3 thoughts go to that really talk to the important work that our classified employees do, and some of the really important work that our classified employees perform are compensated at a wage that's really difficult to sustain. So we want to acknowledge that, and as a collective cabinet, we need to bring options, as we jump into the collective bargaining process to think about this. Like, the work that some of these individuals do are really important jobs, and 200 plus people having a conversation, and I don't think it's any coincidence that this is here. So we can do something about this, though. That's what we get to do. We can't solve every problem, but we can address the ones that really matter to us. So quick recap. Here are the categories that we saw in those 161 thoughts. Compensation and benefits, were something that folks thought that we could get better at. Communication, support and training. There were lots of positive thoughts in there, but there were some, hey, is this relevant to me? Workplace and culture, overall, people were seeing the positive, but there were some, that felt that safety was something that still needed to be addressed. Understood. Student behavior and discipline. There's some kids that are dealing with some stuff, and we have to continue to lean into the supports that are going to reach those learners in a way that is meaningful to them. So we've got some areas to investigate: classified staff compensation, communication gaps. We've got to get better at the communication process. The support for new staff was something that came up, and we've addressed. We've discussed onboarding new employees this year, which is something that we're going to be looking to continue to build on. The safety concerns and then student discipline were also some areas that we've got to lean into and continue to work on. This is a continuous environment, continuous learning environment, right? We don't have anything solved, and it's just we've got to keep refining the process. You got a strengths assessment here, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You got your standard SWOT analysis. That's there. Happy to take any questions or listen to any feedback that you may have.
That's good. Have you had any folks reach out yet to try and help understand it a little better?
No, not yet. I've got a couple of emails over the break that said, hey, late Friday emails are usually awful. This was one of the good ones. Thank you. And then I got help me. There were some questions on how many teachers responded versus how many administrators responded versus how many classified employees responded. And we didn't include that demographic breakdown. We wanted this to be as truly anonymous as possible. There's no way for me to get in here, as much as I don't want to, but, you couldn't get in here to decipher who offered what comment, and that was intentional.
Yeah.
I like that.
No, sounds good, though.
Thank
Moving
you.
in the
Thank
right
you.
direction. All right, and that brings us to a close. I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a